Hey everyone, it's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. Today on the show, we have with us our very good friend Chris from Davenport University. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. This is really exciting.
I'm really happy to have you on. And I just, we've been talking for a little bit. I just noticed you put your he, him pronouns on there. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I had some really good close friends of mine, close kids of ours that were on the show last week, and they pointed out I should do that. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
So
I saw you had it on there. So it's like, okay,
you did?
That kind of show. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
My lefty solidarity groups, we're doing it.
Yes.
So it's just part of what I do now. So
yeah,
cool.
I like that a lot. Man, you got some great energy. You and I were talking earlier today. I'm really excited about this talk because so many people don't understand it, and you're the third person. So right now, today, you are episode 58. So out of the 58, we've had 3 people in esports, and I don't think we've had 3 people in any other industry. Usually it's music or rap or art or something like that. But we've been trying to, keep it pretty diverse, yet we still have 3 people talking about esports. So
it makes sense to me because esports is like the new thing, right? That's something like 20 years ago, this didn't exist. And 10 years ago, it wasn't at all what it is today. I mean, this is very, very, very new. And the fact that not only me, but a bunch of people are getting jobs at major institutions for being a paid esports coach as part of an athletics program is something that's only happened about in the past 5 years and is only taking off now and has only really been delayed this year because of COVID.
When I saw your title on LinkedIn, I was like, what? I was like, yes, please come on the show.
Yeah, my opener is like, I don't believe it either. Like, it's a really weird, surreal thing. And people are like, oh, what? You're an esports coach? And I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome. I'm a big deal. And it's totally random, like a total fluke that I got this job.
I thought I knew something about esports. I actually still think that I do, but I didn't know there were actually people being paid to, be coaches and stuff like that. I imagine you're paying your players, to come to your school, and it's got all the corruption and all of that the Big Ten has in basketball.
We're not there yet, but there's already drama. Like, there's already a lot of drama. It's pretty spectacular, even though the stakes are pretty low. But there's already shenanigans and poaching and behind the scenes, and it's already there's already a metagame talk shows about the stuff that's happening and what the teams are up to. It's I don't know. We already have the template in athletics with regular sports, so it's like a lot of that just kind of transfers over with just changing the faces and the games that are played. It makes perfect sense. There's this huge industry. There's no talent development at all, which is something we can talk about as a major thing of what I think college esports, and especially high school esports, can help with, of giving support for people in trying to chase their pro dreams. None of that exists in the pro scene. It's a real problem. And that that's something that's college sports serves in traditional sports, and it's something that absolutely can do in esports. And the entire industry and infrastructure and just kind of support network of how we do things and the vendors we work with already is in place. So it just is adding a new game, adding new coaches, and then just kind of adjusting to the unique circumstances of competing using computers and a lot of online tournaments. And it all just tracks. It makes perfect sense. It's a really, really easy pitch and very frustrating when we go in front of administrators and they're just like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is the safest thing you can do. I don't understand why you're not doing this.
I got to slow you down a little bit because there's a bunch of people scratching their heads saying, what the hell is esports? So you mind slowing down and backing up with me a minute?
So the easiest way to understand it is just a lot of people play video games, and a lot of people my age and younger especially, it's a natural thing that we spend our time. And with broadband technology and just how accessible internet is, it's really easy to start organizing tournaments, playing online games that are competitive. And then you just kind of add through kind of the startup culture of doing leagues, through just how easy it is to organize stuff through online. And it just really is natural that people like to compete. You have these games that are very competitive, and then this kind of structure came into place of who's the best at these games. And then over time, they developed into a professional scene as more people wanted to watch the best of the best play. They wanted to follow the narrative, and just kind of like how we have sports in general. Like you have these teams, these dynasties, you have all this drama, you have the story, the events themselves are really fun. And it's just something that's really kind of grown, I think, organically out of people are spending their time doing this thing. They want to figure out who's the best at it. And this entire ecosystem and kind of industry built around that idea. And so to me, it makes perfect sense because it's like I play competitive games. I'm a competitive person. I grew up playing tons of sports. And like this, bringing these two things I like doing of competitive video games and then competing like in a very kind of rigid athletic way just makes perfect sense to me. It seems really obvious.
Let's talk about you for a second. You grew up, where'd you grow up?
Arizona. So
right.
I'm a transplant. Yeah. So Michigan State's scholarship program at the College of Law worked, where they offered me a bunch of money to move out here. And I was like, I don't know about Michigan. And then I'm still here. So yeah, I did my undergrad at Northern Arizona in Flagstaff. I did psychology and history. I was trying to be a neuroscience like PhD candidate, but that didn't end up working out. I took like a gap year. I did the LSAT. I did really well. And then I got a nice scholarship at Michigan State. And then once I got here, I started getting involved with, I like startups. I'm a risk taker. I'm a big entrepreneur kind of guy. So this is, obviously how I ended up here because this is like a very risky career. And so at Michigan State, I did a bunch of incubator stuff. So I worked at the Hatch. So I've been involved with like startup culture. And then my last semester of law school, I was fortunate enough that I front loaded my classes. So I had some time. Like my last semester was really easy. So I started up a club, the Counter-Strike Club at Michigan State. And then I just kind of fell into a bunch of people wanted to do the same thing, which was organize kind of like I think of it as like a Hellenic society where you have this overarching board of a bunch of affiliate clubs. And that ended up becoming the Michigan State Esports Association, which is now ESA for short. They're a bunch of really cool. It's still going strong. Like they're doing they just did a grudge match against U of M last weekend. I didn't see the results of that, but we were down when I left. So I hope we turned it around. But
well, I'm a Michigan grad, so
yeah, you probably won.
I'm okay. I'm okay either way.
Yeah. But that's how I got started. Ended up meeting the people like Colin, who's my head coach. I met him while doing events for Michigan State, the Esports Association, because I was helping. There's a big tournament fundraiser thing called Gamers for Giving in Ypsilanti at Eastern Michigan every year, except this year because COVID. And so we were doing this really cool event about like trying to get our teams out there to compete. And then there I met the people that ended up getting me this job because they were just at this thing doing the same thing. Like it's a really small world of like everybody knows everybody. So once you kind of get in there, like it's, oh yeah, hey, I need an assistant coach. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'll do it. And then they're like, oh, cool. Then there you go. I know you know what you're doing. So that happened to me last year because
cool.
The turnover is pretty crazy. So like the university picked somebody, they ended up, their wife got a really cool job. And then they were like, oh, I'll move in. I want to go back to doing like concept art. So like whatever. And then the current head coach was the first assistant coach hired. And he was already, so he just got immediately promoted. And he was like, man, I got to get assistant coaches. So then he called me to help him find people. And I was like, oh, I'll do it. And then now I'm the assistant coach. So
there's somebody, Rosie, she's out in the internet right now. And she at first said Chris Pog or Chris Pog. And then ECA is the name of the club now.
That's a funny story. I knew we made it because we got a cease and desist letter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there's the Electronic Software Association. They make E3, and I got a very kindly written letter from one of their attorneys being like, "Hey, can you change your name?" Which is like a big thing of pride for me that like we made it. Like we made enough waves that I got the attention of like this very large lobbying group to tell us to change our name.
I used to say I was always proud of getting sued when I had my software companies. And then one year we got sued like 15 times. I'm never going to say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to get out of law. It's like, and it keeps bringing me back. Like I keep getting involved in projects when they're like, oh, you're the lawyer. You could do. I'm like, stop. I don't want to do that to people. Like I really don't. So hopefully I can keep doing more defense stuff and not attack people because I got strong opinions about that. We're talking about video games.
Tell us. So there's people out here that are still like their mind. They can't wrap their head around this fact that they spent 20 years yelling at their kid about you're not going to make a living playing video games, and now their whole world is upside down.
You know what my favorite thing is that parents now encourage their kids to do it. Like the career path is set, and there's been so many major success stories. Like Ninja was on, like he did mainstream. I don't want to call it, like he did the mainstream circuit, right? Like he's a big name and like a major star, right? And there's a handful of streamers that I think are up at like, they're like A-list celebrities they make major waves, they have major brand deals, they're making several hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like being a gamer or being like someone who's spending all their time in front of their computer is not deemed as like a waste of time, because there's these real trajectories of you can get serious careers and skills by doing tasks on those, spending time that way. I would argue there's efficient ways to do it. Like there's people who spend all their time in front of the computer doing nothing productive. But really, there was an interview of some pro players, and they were talking about there's skills that come with becoming extremely good at anything. So if you spend the dedication and the effort to get the 10,000 hours to be a complete expert at something, it could be literally anything. And that level of expertise and confidence and understanding just the kind of broader patterns and intricacies of being good at something or great at something means you can apply that knowledge and learning to anything that you're interested in. So a lot of these guys that they spent like their teen years between 14 and 20 playing nothing but Counter-Strike all day, every day. Tens of hours a week, right? Tens of hours a day, like 10 hours a day. And even though they really didn't make it to the top tier pro scene, to make it and become like a wealthy pro of like very, very few people make money playing, very few people. Even just getting paid at all is a huge, huge accomplishment even today. They're still like phenomenal people, like they're still winners. They're still competitive. They understand what it takes to be good. And the time and the dedication and the effort, and like everything doesn't come easy that's worth anything. And so these guys come out and they start like the two I've been talking to just went back to school, and they're miles ahead of their peers, like incomprehensibly ahead of their peers, especially if they came, two of them were in-game leaders, right? So they already have leadership chops. They understand what it takes to get good at anything. And so college is a cakewalk for them. And they have this confidence and this ability to just get things done, which means they're going to be very successful. And honestly, I think they spent their time better than just getting drunk at frat parties, like doing nothing. Like, even though on the outside, it looks like they're playing video games every day and doing nothing. Like what they're really doing is they're competing with the best and trying to really get to and understand like how can they improve and chase that dream of being truly great at something. And it doesn't, like, to me, it really doesn't really matter that much what it is. You will still kind of understand what it takes to accomplish something in the world and then apply that to whatever you want going forward. Like if you're young and 22, like you can completely transition. Like I've transitioned like 4 or 5 careers. Like I'm only 30, right? Like there's tons of time to do stuff.
There's not a day that goes by where I don't use a gaming analogy, and it's usually around the concept of failure and how we don't need to think of failure as failure. It's always about leveling up. It's always about succeed or learn. So if you turn that corner and that bomb blows up in your game, then next time don't turn the corner like that, right? And so you're always, that whole startup thing where you've got a hypothesis, you test it, you make a decision, you pivot based on the data that you get. I think is very much what you're talking about. That is the skill that, once you learn that, then your fears start to go away. Do you think that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we've been learning. It's really interesting to watch because I'm on like the bleeding edge of this information, right? And it's interesting to watch video game like wisdom kind of disseminate through the rest of the world. Because there's these really interesting concepts that gamification lets you do, right? Because I think there's 2 main things. One is that it's really iterative. So that's just a really succinct way of saying like that scientific process of a lot of games, like every game's a fresh start, right? And a lot of the games I play are round based. So each round can be just completely fresh. Like everything's reset, and the software in a very, very in your face way physically resets the world, and it's like nothing ever happened. And you can just kind of go, okay, what did we learn from last round? How can we apply it to this round so we can win? And that like forcing you to go through that loop thousands and thousands and thousands of times means it's just a way that how you view the world, and it's very real to your experience. So I think video games are great for that iterative mindset and learning of just kind of how to handle that kind of thing. And watching that kind of go through, and it's kind of a loop, right? So those ideas of how the video games are designed is because that's an idea of how we think right now. And then because that's what we're spending our time doing, it kind of makes that feedback loop of we just kind of view the world in that kind of iterative way right now. Yeah. And then, so watching that kind of like way of thinking and of way of just viewing the world, and the analogies kind of crop up in other places I wouldn't expect is really fun. And then the other thing is that I totally forgot, and now I feel bad for mentioning two things. I had a second point.
That's okay. I'll jump into something else, because when you look at the world of like lean manufacturing, lean software development, lean startup, all of these things, it's all about that iteration. It's all about those small little things that you try to learn, and you just get better and better, not by planning out what the next 15 years looks like, but what maybe the next 15 minutes looks like, or the 15 days.
Yeah, so I remember what I was talking about. It was gamification, okay. right? So, and I think that kind of piggybacks about what you were saying about taking tasks and breaking them down into smaller slices, and then also being able to kind of find ways to reward yourself for staying committed to something that might be tedious. So, like, I don't know if everybody's heard of RuneScape, but there's a bunch of mobile games as well that kind of use this very feedback loop. I like use contemptuous language about it. It's like I click and then the number goes up. Like there's a lot of games that are based about this fundamental loop about being like, I do an action and then I get a reward immediately that is like a slot machine of like, there's a nice sound and there's an explosion effect and then I get number, like, and it could be XP or coins or whatever, but it's some sort of like, you get this immediate feedback and reward for your actions. And then because video games are so designed and fundamentally like just also, hi Derby, it's good to see you. Thank you. I see you in the chat. It's very distracting. It's like right in my face. thanks for
I literally
I am a fountain. He's one of my students. You get an A for the day, my man. Where it's so the
I need more features on here, so all these students come in and watch my show.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Listen, if you're ever in Lansing, go to the Fledge. It's super cool. It's like one of the coolest things in town. Like straight up. No, like I went to a punk show there. I got a bunch of patches from the Punks with Lunch. It was a great time. So gamification about that instant gratification, essentially like getting a reward for just doing the thing, and that you can track your progress in a very direct, measurable way that's in your face. And just applying that kind of mindset and using the technologies that we've designed just for video games, like you see it popping up all over the place of a way to just kind of reinforce and motivate people when otherwise they're like bored to death and don't care. Which can be very exploitative and it doesn't give me good vibes, but I'm like, it works. So like, I don't know if it's like good or not, but it definitely works.
You know, I'm always scared, you know, gamification it takes advantage of kind of addiction algorithms, right? So the same things that feed into addiction feed into why gamification works. So I'm always trying to, you know, be careful of that gamification and predatory algorithms like that. But there are a lot of good things though too. Like Levelify is a company we had on a couple of days ago, and they've gamified exercise, and they pay a real money. They pay crypto for, you know, going up the leaderboard and doing these different things. They'll end up selling all your data to somewhere. I don't know.
That's the real company.
You got to be careful, but no, I don't think so. I love this guy. He's trying his hardest not to do that.
It's hard,
but it is hard, and it's something you got to sort of be careful of. But it is such a motivator, right? I mean, so many things are built on gamification, but again, you got to be careful. So you have a mission. What's your mission here? Why you wanted to be a lawyer? You wanted to be a neuroscience? You wanted to do startups? You wanted to what's got you so excited about this? Because you have a lot of energy around.
Yeah. So this goes back to when I was younger, and it's really great working with like young adults, right? Like that age range of pretty much like college freshmen and sophomore is like perfect, of like being a mentor and like a counselor and someone who can really help them like try and figure out what they want to do and like how the world works. It's I love that. That's the best. But like what really drives me in esports is that like when I was in high school, I was the esports guy. Like as far as I know, no one else was interested in that kind of thing. And to me, like it was just so isolating and miserable to be like watching Korean TESPA or KESPA broadcasts at like 2 a.m. and then like this is the coolest, most interesting thing. Like, why isn't anybody interested in this? And so like just seeing the transformation over the past like decade and a half of being like this very weird niche thing that like makes no sense to being like the preemptive, like more people that are in the Zoomer generation watch esports than regular sports. It is like the thing now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, just blows my mind about like one, this thing that like I was so passionate about and so interested in became such like a big part of just the world now. And two, like it really motivates me to help those kids that are coming out of like these, because there's a self-selection bias, right? Of like if you spend a lot of time playing video games in your room by yourself, there's like usually a reason. And so like a lot of the kids I work with don't really have the best family life, or they might not have really good social skills, or they definitely don't have like a good social, like, I don't want to use social security net, but it's like, you know what I'm talking about, like your social net of people that you can rely on and that really kind of have your back and that you can confide in. Like a lot of that they just don't have. And so like I really think about when I like all the work that I put into myself to get over that hump about being like this miserable alone nerd in my room by myself to like become like the person I am today, which is like this really good at pretending like I'm extroverted and good at just like talking to people and get people like interested and engaged and together, because like I know what it's like to be so isolated and alone. Like it really sucks. And it's like really important to me to like bring this really this community together and give them kind of like, I think the platform and the just justification for the time they put in, right? Like I watch these kids and they're amazing. Like some of my players are absolutely astoundingly good. And like, I want them on a stage. I want them in front of an audience. I want people cheering for them for their victories because they deserve it. Like they put this time in to get amazing at this thing. And it's really fun to watch them play. Like, so building this community and building this just ecosystem of where we can kind of share this beautiful thing together is like so important to me. I just like love it.
Well, what's something you do every damn day to get to the name of the show to push that mission forward?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this because I do my homework, right? So like I watched a bunch of shows leading up to this, and it's tough for me to answer because like part of my secret sauce is I don't do the same thing every day. Like I really try and mix what I do up as much as possible, and when I get stuck in a routine, I'm miserable. Like I can't. So I really try and mix things up. But something I do every day is I really try and exercise a lot. Something that's very important for my personal mental health. I'm a very high energy, anxious person. So being able to just run or do push-ups or some minimum level to like work out that energy in a physical way just helps me immensely, helps me focus, helps me just be calm. So I personally work out at least in some minimum capacity every day. And I also just read or consume. Like, it's the 21st century. You can do an audiobook, you can do a video essay on YouTube, you can do a podcast, like you can read an actual book. I mean, on paper, I got a whole stack going down here. Like I got like a whole book stack.
I can't do audiobooks. I start daydreaming about a sentence they say,
yeah,
and then it's like 6 hours later and the book's over.
Yeah, I've retained nothing. Yeah, but it's like, so I like consume intellectual content, I think is like the most broadly way to say that.
I like that.
Of like just getting new ideas of new ways of seeing the world, because like we live in this miraculous, amazing time where like you can get pretty much anyone with like a crazy niche perspective who's you never would have come into contact to because they live in like Yugoslavia or something, which doesn't exist, but you get what I'm saying. Like maybe they live in Rojava or something, and like they have an expertise on this really cool thing you never heard of. And they're like, oh, hey, they like, you can kind of understand their English. And it's like, oh man, I never would have seen this before. Like you can find and discover all this information out there that otherwise even 10, 15 years ago, you just couldn't get. So it's like, go find some cool people and really try and mix it up too. Like, oh, because that echo chamber effect is real. And the people you listen to motivate and kind of govern how you think. So it's like, just try and get some people in, like every day, try and find somebody new. Like spend some, like, instead of just doom scrolling Twitter, like actually try and find somebody who has some interesting takes, and then maybe they wrote an essay and read that.
Man, I want about another hour and a half with you. You said you could talk about this for an infinite amount of time.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the college esports space. So.
I know, but that's okay, because we can look that up, because I think it's fascinating. I think, right now my crowd is a lot of your students and a lot of people that you know, just talking about how brilliant you are. And I definitely agree with that. I love this conversation. Hearts and A's, right?
Yeah, it's an A. Like, I love you guys. Thanks. Shout out. Like, I need this. I'm very tired and depressed right now. So
you really got me thinking. And somebody has a question for you that, Deirdre from yesterday, but I'm going to get to that in a second. You've really got me thinking about when I was talking to Proven Esports and Alex and all of those guys, and how they're trying to break down the barriers of people of color who might not be able to afford some of the things that you need to get into it, or maybe, I've got a guy coming on in a few weeks that's a gamer that started a YouTube channel, and he says he gets called the N-word every single day.
Time. Yeah, it's bad.
And so, what are your thoughts? I mean, not what are your thoughts, because I know that your thoughts are generally, this is bad. But tell me something about that. Talk about that.
So that's something Eric and I talked about quite a bit, and so it made me very excited to see them talk about that, because I was like, yes, because like him and I have talked about that quite a lot, about trying to get over the gap of because it's a systemic racism problem. So you have the confluence of economic factors. So to get into to be a PC competitive gamer, you need about $2,000 of disposable income, and a lot of your average American can't afford $400, right? Like buying a high-end gaming PC to be competitive, you can cut corners and get down to $1,000, $1,200, but after peripherals and the software fees and your internet subscription, you're looking at about $2,000. And to get really at the high end, you're looking at $3,000, $4,000, and a lot straight up, most families can't afford to just buy that. And you also need the other factor, which is you need the time. If you got to work a high school job and your home life is a mess and you're busy, you don't have time to dedicate that 10,000 hours into getting really, really good. And so I view the high school and the college track as a way to try and kind of overcome that barrier. And I'm looking for ways that we can use grant money to kind of, because there's a limiter of rich schools already have labs, and they already have connections, and they already have donors that can donate equipment. They can get good deals for branding. A lot of them already have built their fancy computer lab, and their students already have the equipment at home. They don't have this kind of barrier, but the schools we've worked with that really need help, they can't afford to buy computers for their education. They're not going to be able to justify buying gaming dedicated equipment. There's no way. And so the school, the kids that go to that school really suffer because they probably don't have the resources at home, and they probably don't have the resources at school. And it means they're always going to be behind. And so if, from my recruiting perspective, if I'm trying to find students, they need to be at a minimum level for me to really justify throwing a lot of money at them to pick them up, because they got to be good. And if you just didn't have that support growing up, you're just not going to be as good. And so that's at the front of my mind of how we're going to combat that. Because right now, esports is all rich white guys, overwhelmingly rich white guys. And there's a very kind of insular community that reinforces that archetype. And that's why you see that just really hostile and toxic energy that everybody just kind of knows about. And it's kind of a given. And it's really, really frustrating. Every time I'm online, I'm playing a regular game, which doesn't happen anymore because I'm super busy. But I really aggressively try and push to be yo, you don't have to be a jerk. You can be really, and when people are trying to go down that way, I either make fun of them or kind of point out it's their insecurity, and then I build up the other people in the lobby to be listen, we don't have to put up with this. Forget that.
So I was a wrestler my whole life, and people did that to each other. I always thought it was the weak kids were trying to gain an advantage by doing different stuff like that. Is that kind of what you're saying there? Do you think that's why they do it, or they're just jerks? They're just flat out.
There's, I think, oh man, like 3 or 4 reasons. There's multiple reasons. So one is like personal insecurity. People will be vile because they're putting up a front. That's something I see a lot of. Like they're if they can like put the attention out on others, then they're like safe, right? Because the attention's away from them. So insecurity is a big one. The other is like maintaining in-group norms. So like they see it as like this is our clubhouse, get out. And if it's something that doesn't really fit into it, they're like instead of really kind of interfacing, being like, oh, that's cool, that's an interesting thing, they're like, new thing, don't understand, push against it. And then it feels good because they reinforce that their worldview is strong because they've pushed away this other way of thinking, right? So there's like reinforcing in-group mechanics is another one. And then the other, like, I think there's something to be said about just kids like to be provocative, and they're just kind of trying stuff out. So that's definitely, that's the nice one, so I'm going to say that's me. But like when I was younger, I would be like a trolling jerk and a total asshole. But that's just like kind of, you feel it out for a bit. Like you're seeing like, oh, I mean, like what happens when I do these things? You're really trying to test, like, because you're told like, don't do this stuff, it's bad. But you're like, is it really bad? And then you go like kind of push against it. And then you realize, oh no, like you seriously hurt people and this is like an awful thing to do. I will stop doing this now. Right. I think it's like kind of like a healthy part of like learning and pushing boundaries and understanding like, oh, these rules are important because I don't want to hurt people and like make this a bad time. And like, it's a very negative feedback loop of like, you're just toxic and everyone's toxic around you. And then it's not fun anymore. You don't want to do it. So I think there's 3 things at play there. And which is why I don't think like straight representation will help. Like a lot of the people that assimilate that aren't like, I would say like a minority representation in this type of culture tend to assimilate into that culture, and they reinforce those norms.
Okay. All right, let me move on to something else real quick. I've got a couple. One is the lady Miss Betty. Hi, Sean. How you doing? She's a great fan and always watches. She wants to know if you got some sort of Facebook presence that she could reach out to you or talk to you about. She would like to get athletes involved in her Alzheimer's work, and she is doing great work.
Yeah. My email directly is just, you can see my @ in the doobly-doo. Just it's Gelety and then @davenport.edu. I also have a Gmail one, but it's Gelety on Twitter. Those are the best publicly facing ones. I've locked down my Facebook, so like it's not a good way to like publicly reach out to me.
But we'll put some of that in the links for later. So we'll connect you with the lady Miss Betty, and then Rosie is also looking or I'm sorry. Someone, the pug threw me off because everyone says I look like Mark Ruffalo all the time. The Hawk.
Spencer. That's another one. My team's screwing around with you. That's so funny.
But Rosie wanted to know, how do you judge students at a minimum skill level before you consider them for schooling or a scholarship? Or do you have scholarships?
Yeah. So
Davenport, you can go to school for free for.
Like the two of the students that are talking in chat are on pretty good scholarships, like several $1,000s, like decent academic. So they have their academics and they also have their athletic scholarship. But yeah, we're through Davenport University is offering scholarships for the 2021 season, and a lot of games, like all of them. So and if you've got someone who's really cool and wants or good, or I assume everyone you know is amazing, and they play a game that we don't support, we'll work with them. Like we're one of the most like open in that regard. But yeah,
I'm gonna put a call out to Win Wilson at LCC to get on board with this and try to help figure out how to do all of this. And another call out to Marcel Crothers, who's the principal at Lansing Eastern. Let's get this going, man. Let's get some Eastsiders going to school for free.
We're not quite there, but we're pushing
not
for
free, but
to answer the original question about several thousand, it's good. And over the next 5 years, I'm expecting most schools are going to offer. Like, I think you can get like a pretty sizable one at Michigan Tech. Don't go there though, because especially if you play CS, play for me, not them. I want to be better than them. They got an ex-pro. They got enough talent.
They get like 15 feet of snow. Why would you go?
Yeah, right. It's the Arctic. You don't want to go there. But I love them too. Also, Koi, if you're like, I love you, buddy. The answer your question about evaluating. like I'm personally, I like developing talent. So like if someone has a really good mindset and they want to improve and they want to get and put in the time and get better, I'm much more open to someone who might not be like a top tier talent. But for at least my specific teams, what I want to see is I want to see amateur league experience. So for Counter-Strike, I want to see you like in ESEA Open. I want to see in Rainbow Six, it's a lot harder to do that than like ESEA is a very good amateur league. It's very easy to get into. It's very toxic, so just heads up on that. But if you have amateur league experience, that's what I like to see the most. I do want to like we do kind of have like a minimum floor for like your ranked level, just because it's an easy metric. But I personally want to see like some recorded gameplay. I want to really kind of talk to you, make sure that my school is a good fit for you, just kind of professionally. Like Davenport isn't exactly a broad academic institution. It's focused on business. It's focused on IT. They have very good nursing and I think accounting program as well. But outside of that, they don't offer like liberal arts degrees, right? So if you're like me and you want to go into psychology, I'm not going to recommend that you come to my school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are really like my first priority is this a good academic fit for the student? Especially because it's a small school. It's in the middle of Grand Rapids, like it's in rural Grand Rapids. So if they're looking for like a Michigan State, like traditional experience, I'd also say go to where the money's the best. And then you can just like hang out with your friends who went to state and get drunk on the weekend when you're 21, right? But if they're looking for maybe a more urban environment, then also I'd be like, yeah, this probably isn't the best fit for you. Because if you're not happy where you're going to school, you're not going to learn anything. You're going to be miserable, and you're going to be spending all this money and putting all this time into hating everything, and then you're just going to drop out. So that's my top priority, is make sure the school is a good fit for you. And then making sure if you have like league experience, if you've played on teams in a competitive way, in a structured way, that's what I want to see first. Those are like my top candidates, the people that I go after. And then after that, I'm really looking at kind of mindset. Are they really kind of professional? Are they open to criticism? Are they like, because we have a lot of students they're kind of divas, and they're not good enough to be divas, and I don't want to deal with no divas. Like it's like
every entrepreneur is.
Yeah, like they have these big egos, and it's like, we're here to get better, and you're if you were that good, you'd be playing for a pro team.
Yeah, you got to be coachable, damn it. You can't be showing up thinking you know everything. All right, so I got to keep this moving because you took control of the pre-show. You took control of the show. Everyone loves you. They're making fun of me looking like Mark Ruffalo without the crowd.
Leave Jerry alone. He's great.
Yeah, leave me alone. No, it's okay to look like Mark Ruffalo. I mean, he's done some good things.
Yeah.
But I got a question from yesterday. Deirdre, you know, she has a concern like most of us older people are going to have a concern. You know, isn't everyone just getting obese and unhealthy and all of that? And you say athletes, but are they really athletes? I think you got a good answer for that. Right. Yeah. So how do you keep people engaged with moving?
I'm personally really active, right? And I'm a big proponent of that your mental mindset is a physical thing, right? And your body really takes care of yourself, and your mind takes care of your body. So for our program, COVID blew all of this up, but we had an athletic trainer, we had scheduled workouts. It's really, really important to us that our students take care of themselves. Although with COVID, it's tough. Like you guys watching, go to sleep, eat better, do some push-ups, take a walk, please. Because for me, they are athletes. And at the highest level, the pro teams now have nutritionists on staff. They have physical trainers on staff. There are esports injuries, and making sure that you have posture, making sure that you have you're taking care of, because you're doing a lot of fine repetitive motion. So like carpal tunnel stress injuries happen. So we do have developed programming through our physical fitness and trainers to make sure that it's like they're stretching and they have good strength and they have good posture, and that they're like mentally 100%. Because the physical thing is that some of these tournaments you can be playing full attention for hours because you don't have that physical limitation of like for football, you can only run that hard for so long. For video games, you can really push your brain to go as far as you can to be pushing your attention and your focus for 10, 12 hours. And it's grueling, it's exhausting. It's a very physically, it's kind of like race car driving in that way, where it's like, it's much more about like your attention, your ability to focus, to perform at the highest level and maintain like a good outlook, not getting frustrated, still being able to coordinate with your team. It's a very athletic, but mentally athletic. You use a lot of your attention.
I used to go to Dubai a lot, and all these guys from all over the world, we'd all kind of jump in, do our work, and then get out, or some of them would live there. And we played Tekken all the time. And I actually had a Tekken injury once because someone threw their controller and didn't mean to hit me in the face. I wasn't even playing, and had a little cut over my eye. So
no!
I had one of those injuries.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about like if you, because I have terrible posture, right? Like I sit like this all day, right? And that messes up your neck, and messes up your shoulders. And I have a student athlete who has struggled with repetitive stress injuries, and we've worked with the athletics training department to kind of like find good stretches, make sure they're doing weight training and all that to try and reduce that stress. Like any other injury, it's also kind of funny. We ended up getting a bunch of injured athletes. Like when they can't play, they're like, I also play Rainbow Six, or I also play League of Legends, and we're like, yeah, you can hang out with us, it's fine. Because like their shoulders blown up and they can't play, but they can still move a mouse.
So I got to kind of keep us moving a little bit. I said you took control of the pre-show too, which you are fascinating, man. This whole subject is fascinating. I think we need to talk again, but might not be on the show. Well, we definitely will talk again, but I've got on the show tomorrow, so we daisy chain our shows together. Right. So there's a question to pass along, and I've got Danny Raymond, who is starting a restaurant here in Lansing.
Oh no!
So she'll be on the I know. She'll be on the show tomorrow. She's got all kinds of good ideas on how to pivot. But what's the question you would like to ask her?
Is she starting up like now? Right.
Yeah. Well, she's trying to figure that out. Is it a food truck? Is it pop-up? Is it stuff like that?
Yeah, because I mean, the obvious question for me is, in the age of COVID, how are you going to manage that? And can you find a way to use the moment to distinguish yourself? Of like, because my idea is if you have like a cool COVID shtick, you might be able to get some buzz to get you off the ground. Because the restaurant industry is brutal. I have nothing but the highest respect for people who can pull it off because it's really hard.
So I always loop around and ask the guests the question that they're asking the person for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So do you have a COVID? I can't pronounce that word.
I don't. Shtick. There was a really funny meme going around where like the first panel is esports a sport, and then after COVID, esports is the only sport. Like, because being remote is easy for us. Like it's a preferred way of doing
what you do, right?
Yeah. So like being pretty much the only thing that limits us is that like LAN tournaments being in person is just better. It's way more fun, and being able to practice in the same room is just better. But most of my players, and myself included, I've spent so much time in front of our computers communicating through voice chat for years that this was a very easy transition. And it's also something that we can just be like, it's an easy pitch for us too, to my higher ups to say, yeah, like we should have our same operating budget because nothing's changed for us. Like we're still able to compete. We have to do very little changes to be completely isolated, which is nice. But also kind of stinks because we lose kind of the advantage of why go through all this trouble when you could just do these tournaments on your own.
Yeah. Well, earlier today you promoted the show on Twitter, and I retweeted your tweet and said, you know, they're talking about a Michigan High School Athletic Association and wrestling in Michigan wearing a mask during your match, and that's, you know, people used to wear full covered masks, so I've seen it done before, but there are so many people saying they're not going to wrestle now. Does that mean, you know, I hope their skills translate into Tekken or into, you know, something like that?
One of my best, I'm going to throw out favorites. This is a no-no in coaching of my favoritism. Damien was my captain for Rainbow Six last year, and he was a wrestling captain in high school. And that skill of being just being athletically competitive, and especially because he was a captain, he had leadership chops, was invaluable. And that kind of mindset transfers over immediately, very, very well. A lot of the students that have athletics experience. And that's why I really push for not only like clubs that are for like middle school age or even elementary school age, but definitely even middle school or high school teams for esports is so important, is to get that mindset and get that just kind of professional athletic attitude about being like, look, we're here to work. We got to focus. We got to let like all the, like when it's game time, it's game time. Let's get this done. Let's win. Right. Yeah. There's a very like, I just call it like an athletic mindset of like, we got to do these things to win. So we're going to do these things and be very professional about it.
Chris, I love this conversation. We're going to have to end it eventually. So
yeah, I got to go back to my job.
Yeah. Let me do a little business real quick. Every Damn Day airs every damn day at 2 p.m. So there's somebody tomorrow and someone the next day and someone the next day. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, every Friday morning at 9 a.m., we have 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one. Come convince the crowd. You've got 99 seconds to get $99. Every Tuesday at 3, we have 10,000 Fledges, where we talk about our quest to put 10,000 Fledges throughout the world. And then on Mondays, I guess we're going to start next week, we're getting our coding club up and running again. So come check out the coding club as well. There are so many things I would love to talk to you about. About pathways into different jobs and how important this is in the creative economy and the tech economy and the startup world. Chris, you are doing amazing things. I really like this. I love that your students and your crowd engaged with you today. And they seem that they love you a lot, and they think they have a lot of respect for you. So
I love and respect them too. So
I hope that's true in the classroom or whatever, wherever you guys go. And
yeah, we're respectfully.
So, and you all get 50 extra points, whatever that
means. You don't get graded, but you get an A in my heart.
Yeah,
cool. I don't know if you want me to like plug my pluggables.
I do. I want you to plug all your pluggables and take something wise.
Yeah. So shout out to my day job for letting me take the time and keep me fed. Adna Technologies, their Michigan business technology solved. If you would have like a boutique business trying to figure out your IT, especially in the age of COVID, give them a call. You'll give me a call. So if you really like talking or want to talk to me, that's a good way to do it because I'm on the sales line. And shout out to Davenport University. They are one of the few private colleges doing esports. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, also if you do Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six, I am the coach. So if you know someone who's interested in those sorts of things, have them reach out to me. My email there is, like my description says, C Gelety. That's me for everything. For Twitter, both my emails. So for Davenport, it's at davenport.edu. And shout out to Jerry. If you haven't been to the Fledge, you should go. It's super cool. And also shout out to Martin at Punks with Lunch. The rad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then if you're renting, do the tenants union. They're super cool too. Love you guys.
Oh, nice.
I'm doing lots of stuff.
Yeah, we got their sign out front. We keep that out there. That's helped a lot of people this year.
Yeah.
So
it's been a year. Let me tell you. But yeah, I guess the wisdom is do what you do to get the world you want to have tomorrow. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. That I don't need to add anything to that. We're just gonna